Every person aspires to a life of greater significance, a larger income, a deeper influence, a more enduring legacy. Yet here is a reality many resist acknowledging. The majority never truly embark because they are anticipating an ideal circumstance. Pay close attention. You don't require a flawless moment. You require an initial action. Envision a grand future, absolutely. However, the destiny you desire is constructed incrementally through modest, consistent efforts. A single dollar saved, 10 pages read, one lap completed, a single promise honored. This is the manner in which a prosperous mindset is shaped. Not through sudden, dazzling displays, but through daily rituals of success, repeated relentlessly. Not through chance, but through unwavering self-control. Not instantaneously, but via steadfast perseverance over time. Ponder this: what is the most minor initiative I can execute today that propels me ahead? Because minor actions accumulate, they generate impetus. Impetus fosters conviction, and conviction metamorphoses a vague aspiration into a concrete strategy, and a strategy into tangible outcomes. So if you are weary of delaying, weary of hoping, weary of the perpetual someday, consider this your defining moment. In this presentation, I will demonstrate how to maintain your grand vision while perfecting the minor, daily disciplines that forge prosperity, wellness, and sustained development. No inflated claims, no justifications. Simply a practical guide you can implement immediately. Envision vastly, commence modestly, repeat daily, and observe the compounding phenomenon convert commonplace days into a remarkable existence. Prepared? Let's initiate that first action together. Every individual enters this world endowed with a unique and invaluable present, the capacity to envision. Reflect on that briefly. A bird never fantasizes about launching an enterprise. A cow never imagines touring the globe. Yet you and I possess the faculty to conceptualize futures that have not yet materialized. We can shut our eyes, visualize potentialities, and architect a blueprint of the person we intend to be. That is phenomenal. That is the privilege of human existence. And envisioning is potent. A dream is the flame that stirs your soul, the image that motivates you to rise each morning. It is a quiet voice in your consciousness asserting, "There is a greater purpose for me." My existence can be more expansive, more luminous, more fulfilling. Lacking a dream, life contracts into mere routine. Lacking a dream, individuals meander without direction. But possessing a dream, even a seemingly average life starts to feel exceptional. However, here lies the contradiction. While dreaming is magnificent, it can also turn perilous if it never culminates in execution. I have encountered innumerable individuals who harbor splendid dreams within their spirits. They dream of accumulating affluence. They dream of exploring distant lands. They dream of authoring texts, founding companies, leaving a lasting imprint. Their mental picture is clear, yet their feet remain immobilized. They persist in gazing at the distant horizon, anticipating the perfect instant to commence. And as they gaze, the horizon continually recedes. Perhaps you have experienced this. You possess a mental portrait of your desired destination, but you are uncertain how to initiate the journey. And because the initial step appears insignificant, almost too trivial to count, you delay. You convince yourself, $1 will not make me prosperous. A single exercise session will not revolutionize my physique. One discussion will not mend my connection. And consequently, instead of starting, you defer until tomorrow, next week, next year, until the dream that once motivated you becomes the very source of your irritation. This is the reason so many aspirations perish. Not because they were unattainable, but because the dreamer never began. Let us be unequivocal, there is no flaw in nurturing a grand dream. In fact, you must dream ambitiously. Without a grand dream, you will never push past your comfort zone. Without a vision, you will never possess a rationale to withstand hardship. But a dream by itself is insufficient. Conceptualize achievement as a ladder. At the summit rests your vision, the life you crave, the wealth you seek, the impact you wish to create. But you cannot jump from the base to the top rung. You must start at the very bottom. And here is the elegant architecture of life. The first rung is invariably near the ground. It is perpetually within your grasp. Life does not demand you vault to greatness instantly. It requests that you start from your present position, with your current resources, and execute one minor action. That is how dreams start to become real. A young man once inquired of me, "How does one consume an elephant?" The reply is straightforward, one mouthful at a time. And how does one complete a marathon? One stride after another. The identical principle governs every monumental accomplishment. Wealth is not amassed in a day. Wisdom is not gained overnight. Health is not restored in a week. But each of these can commence today with one minor, intentional deed. Here is the true separator. What is simple to do is equally simple to omit. It is simple to save $1, but it is also simple to spend it. It is simple to read 10 pages, but it is also simple to close the book. It is simple to take a walk, but it is also simple to remain on the sofa. The chasm between a life of achievement and a life of remorse frequently hinges on these minor choices, reiterated every day. This is why the beginning is so crucial. The initial step may not appear notable to outsiders, but it is a proclamation to your own spirit. I am committed to my dream. And once you execute that first step, a profound shift occurs. You build momentum, and momentum is invaluable. The instant you start moving, even slightly, you begin to feel altered. You acquire assurance. You sample advancement, and abruptly the dream no longer seems unattainable. It feels feasible. You start to believe once more. So if you possess a grand dream, and I hope you do, remember this: the miracle starts small. Do not scorn modest commencements. Do not resent the tiny steps, because those tiny steps, reiterated with steadfastness, are what transmute fantasy into fact. Dream vastly, but commence modestly. That is the principle. We inhabit a world abundant with dreamers. You overhear it constantly: I will launch my enterprise. I will write my manuscript. One day I will be wealthy. One day I will be liberated. The words sound motivating. The vision sounds honorable. But here is the difficult reality: most of those dreams never depart the dreamer's thoughts. They stay confined in imagination, unaltered by endeavor. Why? Because dreaming is simple. Beginning is not. Dreaming feels pleasant. It provides a surge of vitality, like sampling the future before it is actual. You can sit with closed eyes and envision the residence, the lifestyle, the triumph, and momentarily you feel as if you already possess it. That is why individuals adore dreaming. It is thrilling, undemanding, exhilarating. But beginning feels minor, it feels commonplace, and commonplace does not feel thrilling. So individuals continue dreaming, but they never initiate. I term this the dreamer's trap, and it is among the most hazardous snares you can encounter. This is its mechanism. You dream of building wealth, but the first step is saving $1. $1 feels too trivial. You discount it. You declare, that will not make an impact, and so you do not save it. You dream of becoming fit, but the first step is a brief stroll. A brief stroll feels too effortless. It feels almost humiliating. So you tell yourself, I will start when I have additional time. I will start when I enroll in a gym. And so you never take the walk. You dream of forging stronger relationships, but the first step is a telephone call, a text, a minor gesture of generosity that feels so negligible that you undervalue it. You tell yourself, they will not perceive it. And so the relationship stays fragile, awaiting a dramatic resolution that never arrives. Do you perceive the trap? Individuals overvalue the dream and undervalue the step. Let us analyze this further. Typically, Two reasons prevent people from beginning. Reason one, they undervalue the minor action. They think small equals unimportant. They overlook that every mighty oak originated as a seed. They forget that every mountain ascent starts with one step. They desire the harvest, but they disdain the seed. And because they disdain the seed, they never sow it. Reason two, they overestimate the magnitude of the challenge. They observe the entire mountain and declare, "It is too high. I could never scale that." They perceive the divide between their current location and their desired destination, and the divide feels daunting. They paralyze themselves by fixating on the distance instead of concentrating on the subsequent step. That is why the trap is so potent. It persuades you of two falsehoods: that your minor step is irrelevant, and that the grand dream is too distant. Combined, these falsehoods halt your advancement. But here is the truth: small is not the conclusion. Small is the commencement. Small is the seed that evolves into something formidable. A single dollar saved is not about riches. It is about demonstrating to yourself that you can command money. A single exercise session is not about transformation. It is about demonstrating that your physique answers to discipline. A single act of kindness is not about rectifying everything. It is about demonstrating you still value the connection. The dream motivates you, but the minor step transforms you. That is why minor steps are so vital. They build momentum, and momentum builds belief, and belief, once rooted, fuels further action. I will share something with you. The world does not respond to your declarations. The world responds to your deeds. Words are inexpensive. Action is evidence, and evidence starts with minor steps. That is why many individuals dwell in frustration. They continue discussing the dream. They post about it. They fantasize about it. But when life murmurs, "Demonstrate it," they waver. And here is the calamity: hesitation murders dreams quicker than failure ever could. Failure educates. Failure constructs resilience. Failure can be a foundation stone, but hesitation creates nothing. Hesitation is the silent plunder of destiny. So the next occasion you find yourself stating, "One day," halt and ask yourself, what is the initial step I can execute today? Not next week, not next year, but today. Because if you do not escape the dreamer's trap, your dream will deceive you. It will become the very origin of your anguish. Nothing is more soul-crushing than bearing a dream you never acted upon. Recall this: a grand dream should motivate you, but minor steps must characterize you. The dream reveals your potential destination, but the step verifies that you are prepared to commence. Do not succumb to the trap. Do not be the dreamer who never initiates. Conceptualize success as a ladder. At the summit is the life you envision: the wealth, the health, the influence, the liberty. But nobody vaults from the ground to the top rung. You must start at the base. And the elegant design of life is this: the first rung is always sufficiently near to grasp. That is not coincidental, that is grace. That is design. Life never demands you execute the giant leap initially. It merely asks you to commence with your existing resources, from your present location right now. The initial step may feel minor, even ridiculous. Saving $1, reading 10 pages, walking for 10 minutes, recording one notion. It does not sound remarkable. But here is the secret: the initial step is never about astounding the world. The initial step is about proving to yourself that movement is achievable. Consider momentum. A stationary train requires immense power to shift even a single inch. But once it moves just 1 inch, it becomes simpler to move another inch, and then another. Soon, momentum propels the train forward with an irresistible force. That is precisely how your life operates. The most difficult portion is always the start. But once you move, once you begin, momentum starts to assist you. Let me pose a question. Have you ever observed how challenging it is to initiate an exercise session? but how simple it is to continue once you've started, or how arduous it feels to sit and compose the first sentence. But once you do, the words begin to emerge. That is the law of the initial step. Beginning generates motion, and motion generates emotion. I recall encountering individuals who informed me they desired to be wealthy. They desired to construct empires. But when I inquired, "How much have you saved thus far?" the response was invariably identical: "Nothing, but I will when I possess more." That is the trap. They believe discipline follows abundance. But the reverse is true: abundance follows discipline. If you cannot save $1 from 100, you will never save 1,000 from 10,000. If you cannot manage a small amount, you will never manage a large amount. Life is evaluating you with the minor things to determine if you are prepared for the major things. So do not scorn modest commencements. Do not resent the tiny steps. That is where the miracle starts. Reflect on this: every oak tree started as a minute seed. Every skyscraper started as a plan. Every great voyage started with one step. Greatness is not born fully formed. It is constructed brick by brick, decision by decision, step by step. What you must comprehend is this: the initial step possesses symbolic power. It is your declaration to life that you are earnest. When you execute that initial step, even if no one witnesses it, the universe responds. You have transitioned from wishing to working, from hoping to moving. And that shift in identity is everything. Perhaps currently you feel trapped. Perhaps your dream feels distant. The mountain appears too colossal. The gap appears too vast. Do not attempt to bound the mountain in one jump. Merely execute the initial step. If you desire wealth, save $1. If you desire wisdom, read 10 pages. If you desire health, stroll around the block. If you desire love, utter the kind word you've been retaining. The miracle is not in the step itself. It is in the momentum that follows. The initial step shatters the cycle of inaction. The initial step breaks the hold of fear. The initial step informs your subconscious. We are advancing now. That is why small is potent, because small is feasible. And what is feasible is repeatable, and what is repeatable becomes unstoppable. So let me offer you the challenge: you cease staring at the ladder's summit. Cease awaiting the giant leap. Cease postponing because the dream feels distant. Start with the first rung. Reach for what is before you. Execute the step that is accessible today. Because here is the truth: if you cannot master the initial step, you will never attain the final one. But if you execute the initial step, and then another, and then another, the distance between your current position and your desired destination diminishes with every movement. Remember this law: the dream motivates you, but the initial step defines you. So today, do not merely dream, begin. Dreams provide direction. Minor steps provide a beginning. But without discipline, none of it endures. Discipline is the unseen bridge between imagination and realization. It is the adhesive that binds your minor steps together long enough for them to compound into something remarkable. Most individuals misinterpret discipline. They perceive it as penalty. They perceive it as limitation. They envision discipline as heavy shackles that deprive them of freedom. But here is the truth: discipline is what generates freedom. Without discipline, you are enslaved by your moods, your cravings, your impulses. One day you feel driven, the next you do not. One day you save money, the next you expend it all. One day you start a habit, the next you forsake it. That is not freedom, that is captivity. But with discipline, you become the master. Discipline does not inquire how you feel. It does not negotiate with your excuses. Discipline simply states, execute it. And when you live in that manner, you construct habits that propel you forward even on days when motivation vanishes. Here is a straightforward formula: motivation initiates you, discipline sustains you. You do not require motivation every day. Nobody does. but you do require discipline every day. That is what distinguishes the achievers from the dreamers. Consider finances. Everyone claims they desire wealth, but desiring wealth does not create wealth. Reserving a portion of each paycheck does. Investing prudently, even in minor sums, does. That demands discipline. Consider health. Everyone desires to be fit, but desire alone will not build muscle or reduce fat. Appearing for workouts, selecting water over soda, sleeping instead of scrolling, that constructs health, and that demands discipline. Consider wisdom. Everyone desires knowledge, but you do not gain wisdom by wishing. You gain wisdom by reading 10 pages daily, by journaling your insights, by encircling yourself with great intellects. That is not about talent, it is about discipline. And here is the finest part: discipline compounds. Just as money accrues interest, discipline builds momentum. The more you practice it, the simpler it becomes. Omit one workout, and it is simpler to omit the next. But complete one workout, and it is simpler to complete the next. That is the law of momentum. Initially, discipline feels uncomfortable. Initiating a new habit feels awkward. Saving money feels constrictive. Waking early feels painful. But persist, and something shifts. Discipline transforms from a foe into an ally. It starts to serve you. Habits become entrenched. What once felt burdensome becomes automatic. Envision the freedom of having discipline on autopilot. You awaken and exercise not because you struggle with yourself each morning, but because it is your identity now. You save and invest not because you deliberate, but because it is innate to you. You read and learn not because it is difficult, but because it is habitual. That is the genuine power of discipline. Let me recount a story. I once knew a man who dreamed of becoming a millionaire. He possessed the passion, the enthusiasm, the grand vision. Each time I asked him, "How much have you saved this month?" his reply was identical: "Nothing, but I will when I earn more." That was his error. He believed abundance precedes discipline. But the truth is, abundance follows discipline. If you cannot manage a little, life will never entrust you with a lot. If you cannot save $1 from 100, you will not save 1,000 from 10,000. The minor disciplines are life's examinations. Pass them, and life will grant you more. Fail them, and life will restrain you. Comprehend this: discipline is not solely about outcomes, it constructs character. And character is what sustains you when circumstances become difficult. Because the path will become difficult. There will be days you lack the desire to appear. There will be nights when progress seems non-existent. That is when discipline whispers, "Execute it regardless." And here is a secret: when you obey that voice of discipline, particularly when you lack the inclination, you grow stronger internally. You demonstrate to yourself that you are in command, not your moods, not your indolence, not your fear. That is how discipline transforms you. Step by step, choice by choice, action by action, until one day you recognize you are no longer the person who quits. You are the person who persists. So remember this: the dream motivates you. The minor steps advance you, but only discipline guarantees your arrival. Discipline is not the adversary. Discipline is your greatest supporter. It is the bridge between what you imagine and what you accomplish. Discipline is the engine, but time is the soil where everything germinates. You can possess the grandest dream. You can execute the initial minor step. You can even practice discipline daily. But without time, none of it matures. Without time, seeds do not grow. Without time, discipline does not compound. Without time, greatness never takes root. Here is the truth: time is not neutral. It will either multiply your discipline, or it will multiply your neglect. If you exercise today, nothing dramatic occurs. No instant six-pack, no radical transformation. But reiterate that discipline over weeks, months, and years, and the outcomes are irrefutable: strength, increased energy, a physique that supports you through life. Now, consider neglect. If you omit the workout today, nothing dramatic occurs either. No instant collapse, no apparent loss. But reiterate that neglect over weeks, months, and years, and the outcomes are equally irrefutable: frailty, exhaustion, a body that deteriorates prematurely. Do you perceive it? Time multiplies everything. Time is the great amplifier. Most individuals err here. They overestimate their capacity in a week and underestimate their capacity in 5 years. They anticipate instant success, and when it fails to materialize, they abandon. They fail not because the dream was impossible, but because they did not allow time sufficient space to perform its magic. Consider the farmer. He sows in spring, tends in summer, reaps in autumn, and rests in winter. That is life's rhythm. He does not sow today and anticipate fruit tomorrow. He respects the seasons. He trusts the procedure. He allows time room to multiply his labor. Your life operates identically. You cannot sow a dream in the morning and anticipate harvesting it by dusk. You cannot read one book and anticipate becoming wise. You cannot save $1 and anticipate becoming wealthy. But if you continue sowing, if you continue saving, and if you continue learning, time will compound your minor actions into extraordinary outcomes. Let us make this practical. Suppose you read merely 10 pages daily. That does not sound substantial, but in 1 year that exceeds 3,000 pages, approximately a dozen quality books. And a dozen quality books can reshape your entire philosophy, your decisions, your destiny. Or consider money. Suppose you save merely $5 daily. That is $150 monthly. That is $1,800 annually. Incorporate interest. Incorporate consistency. And in 10 years, you are observing tens of thousands of dollars, all from foregoing one daily coffee. That is the power of time plus discipline. But here is the caution. Neglect compounds too. Consume unhealthy food daily, and time will magnify it. Squander money daily, and time will magnify it. Delay action daily, and time will magnify it. Time does not halt for anyone. It does not pause to let you catch up. It continues moving, multiplying whatever you feed it. That is why the world's most dangerous phrase is, "I will start tomorrow." Because tomorrow becomes next week becomes next year, and before long, 10 years have passed and you are in the identical location, only older. Here is the question you must pose to yourself: 5 years from now, where will you be? The answer is straightforward. You will inhabit one of two places. You will either be 5 years ahead, more robust, wealthier, wiser, or you will be precisely where you are now, only with less time to alter it. Time will pass regardless. Your sole choice is what it multiplies. This is why patience is not frailty, it is potency. When you combine patience with discipline, you generate momentum that nothing can halt. You comprehend that every minor step counts, because, over time, those steps accumulate into a staircase that elevates you to heights you never envisioned. So do not resent the waiting. Do not curse the delay. Do not become discouraged because results appear gradual. Progress is invisible before it is undeniable. The seed develops underground long before it breaches the surface. The results are assembling in silence long before the world observes. Time is not your foe. Time is your ally if you nourish it with discipline. So remember this: discipline constructs the habit, but time unveils the harvest. If you remain steadfast, if you remain consistent, if you remain loyal to your dream, time will multiply your effort and deliver a life you cannot yet imagine. If discipline is the bridge and time is the soil, then habits are the seeds you sow repeatedly until they expand into forests. Reflect on this. A habit is merely a minor step reiterated, one action performed consistently until it becomes automatic. And once automatic, it starts to sculpt your life without your conscious awareness. That is why habits are so potent. They quietly design your destiny. Consider the habit of journaling. Initially, It feels minor, merely inscribing a few lines daily, perhaps a thought, a lesson, a quote that inspired you. It does not appear significant, but over years, that simple habit becomes a treasure trove of insights, a chart of your development, a log of wisdom you can access. Now consider the opposite. An individual develops the habit of having one drink post-work. Just one, minor, harmless, forgettable. But one becomes two. Two becomes three, and soon it is not a constructive habit, it is a destructive one. His health declines, his money dissipates, his relationships crumble. Do you perceive the principle? Minor steps reiterated either elevate you or drag you down. This is why you must guard your habits as if your life depends on it. Because it does. Success and failure are not singular events, they are processes. Success is the outcome of disciplines reiterated daily. Failure is the outcome of neglects reiterated daily. Both are simple. Both are possible. The direction is your selection. Here is the law: you do not decide your future, you decide your habits, and your habits decide your future. Most individuals believe success originates from massive, dramatic shifts. They await a breakthrough, a miracle, a sudden change. But the truth is, success arrives quietly through habits. 10 pages read every day, $5 saved every day. One workout finished every day. One kind word spoken every day. Over time, those habits mold who you become. Consider health. One decision to consume a salad will not alter your life. But the habit of selecting water over soda, of walking instead of sitting, of sleeping instead of scrolling, that alters everything. Consider wealth. One decision to save will not enrich you. But the habit of reserving a portion of each paycheck, the habit of living beneath your means, the habit of investing consistently, that constructs financial liberty. Consider relationships. One discussion will not resolve everything, but the habit of displaying gratitude, the habit of listening profoundly, the habit of dedicating time, that builds connection, affection, and trust. Habits are not glamorous. Habits are not dramatic. But habits are the most potent force in shaping a life. Here is the challenge: detrimental habits are simple to form and difficult to live with. Beneficial habits are difficult to form but simple to live with. Neglect feels simpler momentarily, but it creates agony long term. Discipline feels harder momentarily, but it creates freedom long term. So the question is, which agony will you select? The agony of discipline or the agony of regret? The key is to start small. Do not attempt to alter everything overnight. Start with one new discipline, just one. Read 10 pages, save $1. Walk 1 mile, write 1 page, and reiterate it day after day. Consistency is more potent than intensity, because once you perform something once, you can perform it twice. Once you perform it twice, you can perform it thrice. And soon, momentum assumes control. The habit forms and the habit forms you. Recall this: habits are autopilot. They are the invisible script directing your life. If you do not intentionally design them, they will design you. So here is the challenge: examine your daily existence. What are the minor steps you are reiterating? Are they elevating you or depressing you? Because every habit is a vote for the person you are becoming. Guard your habits. Construct them wisely. Because habits do not merely shape your days, they shape your destiny. If habits are the seeds of destiny, then responsibility is the soil in which they must develop. Without responsibility, even the finest habits wither. With responsibility, even modest commencements can blossom into greatness. Let me be clear: your future is not governed by chance, luck, or circumstance. It is in your hands through the choices you accept and the responsibilities you claim. Far too many individuals spend their lives blaming the government, their parents, their employer, the economy. They point outward, hoping to rationalize their failures. But here is the truth: blaming steals your power. Each occasion you transfer responsibility to another, You surrender control of your own life. Conceptualize it this way: if another is at fault, then another must rectify it. But if you are responsible, then you can alter it. Responsibility is power camouflaged as duty. Examine the narratives of every great leader, every prosperous entrepreneur, every man and woman who constructed something meaningful. They did not away deal conditions from the world. They observed their resources, their location, and declared, "This is my existence. This is my choice. This is my responsibility." Responsibility is not a burden, it is liberation, because when you own your choices, you no longer must await permission. You no longer must hope circumstances improve. You can act, you can alter, you can advance. Consider financial freedom, for instance. Many individuals lament their salary, their expenditures, their lack of opportunity. But the individual who accepts responsibility declares, "I will live within my means. I will educate myself about finances. I will build multiple income streams." He does not await a lottery win or a miraculous raise. He accepts responsibility, and by doing so, he assumes control. Or consider relationships. It is simple to declare, "They do not love me sufficiently. They do not comprehend me. They do not support me." But responsibility inquires, am I demonstrating love? Am I pursuing comprehension? Am I providing support? Because the sole behavior you can genuinely control is your own. Even in failure, responsibility is the turning point. When you fail and blame others, the lesson is forfeited. But when you fail and declare, "This is my responsibility, I can improve," abruptly failure becomes your greatest instructor. Responsibility transmutes defeat into development. Now, responsibility does not imply guilt. It does not imply you instigated every adverse event in your life. There are forces beyond your command: storms, betrayals, accidents. But here is the secret. Responsibility is not about controlling occurrences, it is about controlling your response. Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of the Holocaust, stated this: "Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom and our growth." That space is responsibility. It is the capacity to select your action even when life is unjust, even when the anguish is genuine. That is why responsibility is the foundation of maturity. Children assign blame. Children declare, "It is not my fault." Leaders declare, "I will discover a method." And here is the empowering truth: the instant you fully accept responsibility, you cease being a victim. You become the author of your narrative. You cease reacting to life and start creating life. Inquire of yourself, in which areas of my life am I still blaming? Where am I awaiting another to change? And what would transpire if I decided today to own it instead? Because the law is simple: until you accept responsibility, you cannot alter. But once you do, there is nothing you cannot alter. So I leave you with this challenge: stand up. Own your past without justification. Own your present without grievance. Own your future without fear. Because the instant you do, you unlock a power most individuals never experience: the power of responsibility. And with that power, you can design your destiny. Most individuals overestimate their accomplishments in a week and underestimate their achievements in 5 years. Why? Because they fail to comprehend one of life's greatest multipliers: the compound effect of minor steps. Consider how compound interest operates in finance. You set aside a single dollar, then another and another. Initially, it appears insignificant, merely a few coins saved instead of spent. But over time, those dollars earn interest. Then the interest earns interest. And abruptly, the figures are no longer minor. What seemed ordinary at the start becomes extraordinary at the conclusion. Life operates identically with habits, disciplines, and daily actions. One push-up will not transform your physique. One kind word will not repair a shattered relationship. One day of saving will not make you wealthy. But reiterate those minor steps sufficiently long, and they start to accumulate. The invisible becomes visible. The minor becomes major, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. This is the law of compounding, and it applies not solely to money but to every facet of your life. Let us use health as an illustration. Imagine two individuals. The first decides daily to drink soda with dinner. The second selects water. On day one, the distinction is nearly zero. After a week, still nothing perceptible. But fast forward a year, 5 years, 10 years, the first individual may struggle with energy, weight, and long-term health complications, while the second enjoys vitality, clearer skin, and a stronger body. Both choices were minor, both were simple, but one direction multiplied into decline, while the other multiplied into strength. That is the secret many individuals miss. Minor steps never remain minor. They either compound upward toward success or downward toward failure. There is no neutral territory. Every day, you are either making deposits into the bank of discipline or withdrawals into the account of neglect. And the frightening part, both are invisible initially. Skipping the gym once does not ruin your health. Consuming junk food once does not make you ill. Ignoring your savings once does not make you impoverished. But permit those minor neglects to accumulate, and one day they arrive with vengeance. Conversely, consider reading merely 10 pages daily. It does not sound substantial, correct? 10 pages can be read in 15 minutes, but over a year that exceeds 3,000 pages, roughly 12 solid books. 12 books filled with wisdom, strategies, and ideas that can entirely reshape your thinking, your earning, and your living. Execute that for 5 years, and you have absorbed 60 life-altering books. Individuals may observe you and remark, "You are fortunate to be so wise, so knowledgeable." But it was not fortune, it was the compounding of 10 pages daily. Here is where the compound effect becomes magical momentum. Initially, minor steps feel sluggish and tedious. Results are invisible. You save money, but your account balance remains small. You exercise, but your physique does not change overnight. You speak kindly, but your relationship still feels delicate. That is the testing ground. Most individuals abandon here because they anticipate instant fireworks. But if you remain steady, something starts to shift. Your progress starts to amass. Your results start to manifest. And abruptly, momentum starts working for you instead of against you. Momentum is potent because it multiplies effort. Once you have saved your first 100,000, the subsequent 100,000 is simpler. Once you have lost your first 10 pounds, the subsequent 10 arrive quicker. Once you have established trust in a relationship through countless minor acts, loyalty grows automatically. Momentum is the invisible hand that accelerates your journey, but you only attain it by starting small and remaining consistent. Let me share a story. A young man once told me, "I do not wish to spend 5 years constructing this enterprise." I asked him, "How old will you be in 5 years if you do not construct it?" He replied, "The identical age." Precisely. The years will pass regardless. The sole question is, will they pass with compounding progress or compounding regret? 5 years from now, you could be standing in the identical location or 5 years ahead, and it all hinges on the tiny steps you select today. That is why discipline is so critical. Discipline links today's minor steps with tomorrow's massive outcomes. Without discipline, you cease before the compounding activates. With discipline, you persist sufficiently long to permit time to multiply your effort. And when time starts working with you instead of against you, the outcomes feel almost unjust. Individuals term it overnight success, but they do not witness the nights of persistence that accumulated. They observe the harvest, but they did not witness the sowing. So inquire of yourself, what is one minor step I can execute today that, if reiterated for the next 5 years, would entirely transform my existence? Is it saving $5 daily? Reading 10 pages, recording my objectives, meditating for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, do not scorn its insignificance. Do not underestimate its power. Because in time, the compound effect will magnify it into something that astonishes even you. Dream vastly, yes. Cling to the vision of a future worth striving for. But never forget this truth. The dream will only materialize through the daily disciplines, the minor steps, and the compound effect of consistency. That is where the miracle starts. History is filled with individuals who started with nothing but a dream, and then executed minor steps until the world could no longer disregard them. We tend to admire the harvest of their success, but we frequently forget the sowing, the irrigation, and the extended seasons of waiting. Every great narrative is constructed on modest commencements, and when you comprehend this truth, your own dream feels considerably more attainable. Consider Thomas Edison, the man who gifted us the electric light bulb. Individuals frequently cite his genius, but what they forget is that Edison failed thousands of times before finally creating a functional bulb. Each failure was not a waste. It was a minor step forward, a fragment of data indicating, not this method. Imagine if he had abandoned after the first 100 attempts, or even the first 1,000. The world would have remained in darkness. Edison's brilliance was not solely his intellect, it was his readiness to continue executing minor steps, even when the outcomes were not immediate. Or consider Henry Ford. Before he revolutionized the automobile industry, he was merely a young man tinkering with machinery in a small workshop. He did not possess an empire. He did not possess millions of dollars. He possessed a dream of constructing a car affordable for ordinary families. Step by step, experiment by experiment, he advanced toward that dream. And eventually, the assembly line was born, a concept that forever altered the world. Ford's journey is evidence that great transformations start in humble workshops, not glittering boardrooms. Let us bring it nearer to personal finance. Imagine a young woman who decides to save merely $5 daily. Initially, it feels meaningless. $5 can scarcely purchase a coffee, but she remains consistent. 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, and in time, she constructs a financial foundation granting her freedom others only dream of. Her wealth is not constructed from one large victory or a lottery ticket. It is constructed from minor, steady steps that compound. That is the narrative of countless self-made millionaires, not sudden riches but disciplined commencements. Even in relationships, the principle holds. Consider a marriage that thrives not due to one grand romantic gesture, but due to daily kindness. A spouse who chooses to listen, a partner who chooses to encourage, a shared laugh, a handwritten note, a patient word. Each is minor, nearly invisible independently. But stack them over years, and you possess